Fellas, I've got a new microphone thanks to my YouTube shekels, and what better way to test it than talking about Battlefield 4 yet again. Though with all honesty, I think that I've had my fill with this game for the time being, so this should be the last Battlefield 4 video in a while. However, if the beta for 2042 comes out before Path of Exile's next league, I'll try to make some content for that as well. A little variety doesn't hurt anyone, right? But today's topic to wrap up this small Battlefield 4 window is all about infantry combat. As I said in the previous video, I am a big fan of infantry focused encounters. Not because I hate vehicles, but because soldier fights tend to get chaotic and they can lead to some of the best fun Battlefield has to offer, especially when both teams are actively playing the objective where the flow of matches never ends. Hence why the clips in today's video are about Rush and Domination, which tend to get the more hectic firefights than the other game modes. And as an average flank enjoyer, they tend to lend themselves for some crispy backstabbing. So if you enjoyed tonight's content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, otherwise a rating and a comment are always appreciated. Anyways, in comparison to the previous video, things seem to be getting a bit spicier in Battlefield 4 as of recently. And what I mean by this is that the game is slowly returning to that never-ending sweat locker that it was a year ago. Maybe it's the servers that I've joined recently, but I can feel the game becoming a bit more serious than previous weeks as the Battlefield warlords return to reclaim their shit bucket thrones. Granted, there is nothing wrong with competition, it's just that matches can be one-sided, which unfortunately happens relatively often in Battlefield 4. And even more specifically in Rush, where a losing team is gonna more than likely devolve into spawning as snipers where their only strategy is gonna be camping said spawn point. And there is nothing worse than being in the team that surrendered early. However, as an average enjoyer of flanking, sometimes it's best to just ignore the main conflict and attempt to pull off some plays, for the sake of having fun. And there is nothing better than going on a couple of streaks by being an active thorn in the side of the enemy team. It is here where any sense of morality must be left behind so that cheese can be embraced. And for that, there is nothing better than a suppressed AEK to mow down any unsuspecting players in quick succession. And if I'm being honest, I am sure that balance was not considered when making this weapon, because it's just a big fat meme at this point. Granted, I am glad that it's strong enough to clear squads in mere seconds, especially when you're flanking and you need to be fast not to get caught, but I also feel kinda disgusted after using it for a while, because it really is the pinnacle of cheese in Battlefield 4. There are weapons like the MTAR, the MG4 or even the FAMAS that get close to the AK's performance, but this assault rifle really sits at the top of the weapon chain, at least where CQB is concerned. But sometimes you feel like returning to decency, so you go back to using other weapons. And in this game there's dozens of them, scattered throughout the 4 classes alongside the universal weapons, which unfortunately also means that some of them are gonna underperform in comparison to others, and using them is an added challenge. For example, the G36C. And I don't know what DICE was thinking with this carbine, because in Battlefield 3 it was an engineer exclusive weapon, and a relative decent primary at that. In Battlefield 4, however, it's a shadow of its former self, and as I said previously, using it comes with an added degree of difficulty to your experience. It's a fun weapon, but it's not on the level of other carbines, let alone the general pool of weapons. And in the topic of weapon balance, unfortunately it is something that not every game gets right. An arena shooter like Halo will have an easier time balancing the sandbox because every weapon fulfills a role, but in games like Battlefield or Call of Duty, where new weapons are added every content drop, balance is hard to maintain. This is important because right now in Battlefield 4 what keeps balance in quote-unquote check is the different class loadouts. The assault class or medics use assault rifles, engineers use PDWs, supports use LMGs and recons use snipers, while at the same time any class can equip carbines, shotguns and DMRs. However, I am in a conflict with this train of thought because I often flank as an assault. Unless the map has vehicles, I hardly find myself using the other classes, with recon being the one that barely has any time put into it from my part. Assault gives you too much room for mistakes, by allowing you to heal yourself or other teammates as well as revive them. These are qualities that overshadow the other classes, especially when doing infantry only matches. But in 2042 this distinction between classes is gonna be lost, as any class can use any weapon. This means that we could see a shift in the certain way weapon classes are used. Granted, there are situations where you're gonna prefer an SMG over an assault rifle, but the freedom of using anything and everything with any class will help the variety we see. But at the same time, this situation is already giving me nightmares of seeing like 10 to 20 snipers sitting on rooftops handing medpacks and ammo to each other, not playing the objective. Granted, there is no need to stress about it because it is not a thing yet, and it might not even happen at all. But considering how easily some people give up and resort to sniping when they are losing on Rush without even attempting to push the objective, I have no doubts that in a server that has 128 players, some of them are gonna more than likely behave like this. It's something that you really cannot control, as everyone plays the game differently. Some players like treating it like it's their second job, while others are just here to look at pretty graphics. Moving past the small rant about these bush Wookiees, I gotta say Battlefield shines when both teams are caught at a stalemate over a territory, MCOM or flag. And, to be honest, nothing feels quite as satisfying as clearing the area for your team to take over, whether you are defending or attacking, which again creates a certain addiction to this and you feel like doing it again and again. And sometimes your opponents aren't committed to the objective, which allows you to continue your rampages, but other times people adapt and that forces you to change strats. And other times you're caught in the middle of conflict and you gotta adapt to the chaos around you. It can be fun at times, for example getting caught in the middle of the firefight in Operation Metro where the tug of war is tense enough that no team is giving up. So you find yourself slowly pushing through the subway wreckage, while firing at any lost souls, fighting other targets only to get stopped by someone who is doing the exact same thing as you. It's the nature of this game, or granted the series as a whole, but it's something that I hope that 2042 is able to deliver. Now yes, I know that if you want to do infantry combat there's always Call of Duty, but it simply isn't the same thing. I find Battlefield to be a lot more enjoyable in this regard, especially where large teams are involved, and even more so when everyone is focused around playing the objective. But yeah, all in all, Battlefield is fun, and sometimes hopping and crouching around corners with an AAK can be a really enjoyable experience. And with that said, let's wrap up this Battlefield video. I have been playing a lot of this game lately, which is why I came to do a second video for it. I know that we are a channel focused around Path of Exile and to some extent similar games in the genre. But you know what, sometimes it's fine to take a break and appreciate games from other genres, especially when the main game still has a couple of weeks before fun can be had again. But anyways, thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, but a rating and a comment are always appreciated. So take care, have a nice rest of your week, and peace out.